Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we are diving into a report so packed with numbers it's practically an accountant's dream and everyone else's worst nightmare. Get ready as we untangle the financial web of Uwharrie Capital Corp's latest quarterly report. This report basically tells us how Uwharrie Capital did in the first 3 months of 2025. Did they make money? Did they lose money? Were there any hidden surprises? We'll find out. If you appreciate getting the insights from these corporate filings, make sure you are subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where you can discuss your thoughts. Let's get started with this Form 10Q for the period ending March 31, 2025. This is Uwharrie Capital Corp, a North Carolina-based company. The report confirms they've filed all the necessary paperwork over the past year. The first important info we see is that the company Uwharrie Capital Corp is based in Albemarle, North Carolina, and their phone number, if you want to call, is 704-983-6181. As of May 5, 2025, they had 7,055. They had 7,055 calculating earnings per share, which tells us how profitable the company is on a per share basis. Now let's jump into the good stuff, the financial statements. Alright, let's dive into the numbers. On the balance sheet, I see that cash and cash equivalents increased from about $52 million at the end of last year to $77.2 million. They have more liquid assets on hand. Their securities portfolio is pretty big, made of a mix of debt. Securities available for sale at fair value are at $343.9 million, and they also have securities held to maturity with a net value of $26.7 million. The big money maker, their net loans held for investment, is at $658.8 million. That's a lot of loans they expect to pay off. Add it all up and their total assets are $1.6 billion. That's up from $1.13 billion at the end of the year. So the company is growing its asset base. Looking at liabilities, the bulk is customer deposits totaling $1.06 billion, up from $1.03 billion. Seems like people are trusting them with their money. In total, their liabilities are about $1.1 billion, so they have more in liabilities than actual equity. The total Uwharrie Capital Corp shareholders' equity is $51.7 million, and total shareholders' equity, including non-controlling interest, is about $62.3 million. This is up from $57.7 last year. Moving to the income statement, which tells us about profitability, things are looking pretty good, so let's see some highlights. The lifeblood of a bank, interest income, came mostly from loans at $10.2 million from taxable investment securities. Altogether, interest income was $13.8 million, up from $12.7 million in the same quarter last year. Of course, they had to pay interest too, and their interest expense was $4.7 million, also up from the $4.1 million they paid last year. So their net interest income, the difference between what they earned and paid, was $9.1 million last year. To account for potential losses, they had a provision for credit losses of $281,000, down from the big recovery in credit losses they got last year. Now, it's important to clarify provision. They mean like putting aside a little bit of money because you think that some people might not pay you back. Non-interest income, things like fees and service charges, totaled $2.4 million. That's where they make money other than interest. All that money they spent running the bank, salaries, rent, etc., totaled $7.9 million. At the end of the day, their net income attributable to common shareholders was $2 per share. That's up from $2.2 million, or $34 to fair share per from $2.22 million, or $0.3 share from the same time last year. So they are moving in the right direction. This is where you see other gains and losses that don't go on the income statement. In this case, it's mostly unrealized gains and losses on their investments in securities. With that considered, comprehensive income ended up being $5 million. What can be said? It was a profitable quarter. This statement gives us the details on how their ownership structure changed, and we can see at a glance all numbers moving toward a healthy business. The important thing to note is that 7,061,777 shares of common stock are outstanding as of March 31, 2025. Here we can see where the cash actually came from and went to. Their net income was $2.6 million, but they had $3.1 million in cash from operating activities, which includes income. They also used $7 million in investing activities, largely from an increase in deposit accounts. At the end of the day, their cash increased by about 25 millions. This left them with $77.2 million in cash and cash equivalents at the end of the period. Now let's pivot to what the SEC filings talk about. They noted that preparing these statements requires a lot of management estimates and that the determination of the allowance for credit losses is particularly tricky. The company had some commitments they made for things like giving people credit, but nothing outside of normal business. Their debt securities available for sale had some unrealized losses, but they don't believe these are permanent. It has gotten better than a few months ago. All right, that's a quick look at the numbers now for the risks. They highlight the risk of increases in past due loans and provisions for credit losses, which could result from the local economy. Okay, that was a deep dive into Uwharrie Capital Corp's latest quarterly report. Lots of numbers, but the gist is that the company is growing. I canned now for my overall thoughts. Uwharrie Capital Corp is demonstrating a solid, albeit not spectacular, performance. It is profitable, has a decent amount of cash, and deposit base appears stable. Risks remain on how well their loans will perform. They are making money off all those loans, and if people can't pay them back, they might be in trouble. For the report, I did like that they talked about their approach of taking a conservative approach to manage credit risk. Those are words every shareholder likes to hear as to their overall. Their numbers suggest that they are doing well. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.